Okay, so the first question we have on 2.03, which is geometric sequences, is what is the sum of the first 8 terms of the geometric sequence 2 plus 6 plus 18 plus 54? Now, kind of like in the last lesson, we could find out all of the first 8 terms and then add them together. But instead, we can just use this really nice formula. And instead of finding all 8 of those terms and then adding them together, this formula lets us just find the sum of the first 8 terms. So the formula that we need is right here. Let's see if I can make that a little bit thicker. So we have S sub n equals A1 or A sub 1 times 1 minus r to the n power divided by 1 minus r. So before we do too much of anything, let's go ahead and figure out what A1 and R and N are. And a lot of R's. Okay, so A1 is always the first number in the sequence. And that's kind of an important one to remember. So first number in the sequence. R is the common ratio. And that just means how we get from one number to the next each time. And then N is the number that we're trying to find, or number of terms. Okay, so those are 3 important definitions that we need to know for all of these problems. Okay. So now let's figure out what our A1, our R, sounds so weird to say, and our N are for this problem. So for this particular problem, A1, our first term in our sequence, is 2. Our common ratio, how do we get from one number to the next? And it looks like our common ratio is times 3. And we always want to talk about multiplication or division here. So 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. And 18 times 3 is 54. So our common ratio is 3. And then our number of terms, it's asking us to find the sum of the first 8 terms. So our N equals 8. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to plug all of those into that formula that I boxed in yellow. Ooh, I'm running out of room. Okay, so S of N equals A1. My A1 is 2 times in parentheses 1 minus R, which is 3, to the N power, which is 8, divided by 1 minus R, which is 3. Okay, so I just plugged in those numbers. Now, in order to start simplifying this, you do need a calculator. I highly recommend the Desmos Scientific Calculator. You can get it as an app on your phone, or you can Google it and just use it there. So the first thing I want to simplify, I'll highlight it in this light blue. Nope, do it in pink, is 1 minus 3 to the 8th power. Let's simplify that numerator first, and then we'll simplify the denominator. So 1 minus 3 to the 8th power. I couldn't tell you what 3 to the 8th power is, so let's let our calculator help us. So 3 to the, and to do the to the power, it's a to the b. 8th power is 6,561. So, hold on, let me remember that. 6,561. So this is the same. 6,500, right, and 61. And we're going to divide that by 1 minus 3, which is 2. 1 minus 6,561 is 6,560. If you don't trust me, we can use our calculator. 1 minus 6,561. We get negative 6,560. So 2 times negative 6,560 divided by 2. Sorry, this should be negative 2 because 1 minus 3 is negative 2. There we go. Now we can simplify what's in parentheses. So 6,560 or negative 6,560 divided by negative 2. I don't know what the heck that is, so let's put it in our calculator. Negative 6,560 divided by negative 2. We get positive 3,280. Positive 3,280. So now we have equals 2 times 3,280. And 2 times 3,280 can go back to my calculator. 3,280 times 2. And we get 6,560. Oops. And that is our final answer. We could have also canceled out this and just had negative 6,560 divided by negative 1. We would have gotten the same answer. So if I add the first 8 terms of this sequence up here together, I get 6,560. So if it's ever asking you for the sum, you're probably going to use this equation here. All right, let's go on to the next one. This one's not as long. It says, what is the nth term of the geometric sequence 4, 8, 16, 32? So when we're looking for any type of term, we're going to be using the equation a sub n equals a1 times r to the n minus 1. And it gives us this equation in the tutorial. That's just like the equation that we will be using for this. So the equation above and this equation are really going to help you with this quiz. So just like we did before, let's list out all of our variables. So a1 is our first term. Well, I can do it down here. No, that's fine. A1 equals 4 because that's our first term. R is how do we get from one number to the next? To get from 4 to 8, we multiply by 2. To get from 8 to 16, we multiply by 2. And then to get from 16 to 32, we multiply by 2. So R is 2. And then our n, it's asking for the nth term. So our n, although it sounds really weird, is n. So all I need to do is plug these numbers and letter into my equation that I boxed in yellow. So if a to the n equals a1, or a sub 1, which is 4, times r, which is 2, to the n minus 1 power. Okay, and that's actually it. We can't solve any more from there because it doesn't tell us what they want n to be. So we're just setting up the equation here. And it's multiple choice, so you should have that answer as one of your multiple choice answers. It looks weird just because we're not plugging in a number for n, we're plugging in n for n. All right, And our last question is actually going to use the same equation. So it says, what is the 10th term of the geometric sequence that has a common ratio of 1/3 and 36 as its 5th term? So this one's a bit of a beast. So hang tight with me. There's 2 steps to this equation, really. So again, I'm going to start by writing out what I know. Let's see, we have a sub 1. Well, I don't know what my first term is. It doesn't tell me. So that's a question mark. I do know that my R, my common ratio, is 1/3. Tells me that right here. And I know that my 5th term, I'll put it in pink, a sub 5 is 36, because it tells me 36 is my 5th term. And we do need that information. Okay, and n kind of changes here depending on what we're doing. But if I'm finding a sub 5, then n is 5. Okay. All right, so our goal first, before we can find the 10th term, we really need to know what that first term is. So we need to find a sub 1. So we can do that using this information here. I'll highlight it in like green. We're going to use this information here to help us solve for A1. So I'm going to plug in what I know into this equation up here. Highlight it in yellow. Okay. So a sub n, right now, that's going to be my a sub 5. So a sub 5 is 36. So I'm going to plug in 36 equals a sub 1, I don't know what that is, times r, I do know what r is 1/3, to the n minus 1 power. And because I'm using 36, n is 5. So to the 5 minus 1 power. And if I simplify a little bit, I can write 36 equals a sub 1 times 1/3 to the 4th power. Because 5 minus 1 is 4. Okay, you definitely want a calculator for this. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to figure out what is 1/3 to the 4th power. So I'm going to go to my calculator. And I can do parenthesis 1/3 to the 4th power. And what's nice about Desmos is if I click this little fraction thing over here by my answer, it turns it into a fraction. That's why I love this calculator for online learning. So 1/3 to the 4th power is 1/81. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down over here. So I have 36. That's not the right color, sorry. 36 equals A1 to the 1/81. Now A1 and 1/81 are being multiplied together, so we need to do the inverse operation and divide by 1/81. And we're going to do that to both sides. Looks kind of weird. We don't like dividing by fractions usually. Now, when we're dividing by a fraction, you can either just put this whole thing in your calculator, in the Desmos calculator, or if you remember, probably from middle school, when we're dividing by a fraction, we need to flip it. So this really looks like 36 times 81/1 equals a sub 1. So 36 times 81 is 2,916. You can also just write it as, let's see, 36 divided by 1/81. And look at, we get the same answer. 2,906, or I'm sorry, yeah, 2,916. So A1 equals 2,916. And you'd think we'd be done, but we're not quite done, but we did do the hardest part. We found A1. This is very, very important to know. Now, my question is, what is the 10th term? So what is that 10th term? I found the first term. That will help me find the 10th term. So I'm going to return back to this, but this time I don't know what A sub n is. But I do know what A sub 1 is. It's 2,916. Actually, this is going to be A sub 10 equals A1, which is 2,916 times R, and R is still 1/3, to the n minus 1. And because my n is 10, because I'm getting that from here, I'm going to have 10 minus 1. So really, I have A sub 10 equals 2,916 times 1/3 to the 9th power, because 10 minus 1 is 9. So really, we could, if you wanted to, you can do this in pieces. You can find 1/3 to the 9th power, multiply it by 2,916. But if you use the Desmos calculator, you can just put that whole thing in the calculator. So I'm going to go here. And it is 2,916 times 1/3. Oops. 1/3 to the 9th power. And I can turn that into a fraction. And I get 4/27. So my answer should be A sub 10 equals 4/27. Because I just put it in a fraction because that's how your the multiple choice answers are for that question. So it's kind of a beast. It's a lot of work, but it really just revolves around this equation up here. So if you need to go back and rewatch any of this, you can. You can pause it at certain points and take screenshots or take a picture with your phone to help you with the rest of the problems on this quiz. Okay. Again, highly recommend downloading the Desmos scientific calculator. And if you don't want to download it, you can just Google it and it'll come up. But I like having it on my phone and my iPad. Okay. So download that if you can on your phone, or look it up on Google when you're doing these problems. Let me know if you need any more help.